Hello everyone, this is Zia, and this is my research topic presentation. My presentation will be about high blood pressure, which is also known as hypertension. So let's get to it. In definition and an overview, high blood pressure is the pressure, or in this case just on blood pressure. Blood pressure is the pressure your blood puts on the walls of your blood vessels as it circulates through the body. It is measured in millimeters of mercury and is recorded as number one over another. Blood pressure is determined by both the amount of blood your heart pumps and the amount of resistance to blood flow in your arteries. The more blood your heart pumps, and the narrower your arteries, the higher your blood pressure. The first number in the systolic pressure, the pressure when your heart beats. The second number is the diastolic pressure and is a measurement of power in between beats. Continuing on with the definition and overview of high blood pressure, there's actually two types of high blood pressure. The first type is primary essential hypertension. The second is secondary hypertension. For primary, in most adults, there's no identifiable cause of high blood pressure. Primary hypertension tends to develop gradually over the years. Meanwhile, secondary hypertension, some people have high blood pressure caused by an underlying condition. Secondary hypertension tends to appear suddenly and cause higher blood pressure than does primary hypertension. Various conditions and medications can lead to secondary hypertension, including obstructive sleep apnea, kidney problems, adrenal gland tumors, thyroid problems, certain defects you're born with, congenital, and blood vessels, certain medications such as birth control pills, cold remedies, decongestants, over-the-counter pain relievers, and some prescription drugs. Illegal drugs such as cocaine and amphetamines. So the question, why high blood pressure? Why did I choose this out of all other topics that I could have discussed about? Well, it's simple. High blood pressure runs within my family. Both my mom and dad have it, and they have it along with diabetes. And honestly, I'm not very surprised to know that I would end up having it. Truth be told, I am only 24 years old, and some of you are probably going to be like, "Wow, well you're so young. You shouldn't even waste your time stressing." But hey, I can't help it. I just want to have a good life. When you want to have a good life, you stress. But most importantly, earlier this year I had a really dramatic experience with it, and I found this out when I was scheduled to get all four of my wisdom teeth extracted. This was back in late January of this year, and when I got there, it didn't happen because my blood pressure was too high. The top number of the machine was 143, while the bottom number was 111. Both the staffs that were assisting the dental doctor decided to do a second run with my blood pressure, and this time the bottom number came down to 109 or 109. My blood pressure was still very high, and the dental doctor suggested that I meet with the medical doctor and then give him a follow-up and return within a month after rescheduling and after I take some medication. So after discovering that day that I had high blood pressure, within that moment, my mother, unknowingly, she triggered me by lecturing me with nonsense about me having high blood pressure, and it just broke me down because I started thinking about all sorts of kinds of problems that had going on in my life at the time, and because she unknowingly triggered me, it only made everything worse for me. So yeah, I ended up going on medication for a month, high blood pressure medication for a month, and strangely enough, I actually felt a difference in that, and I did feel a change in behavior. I didn't figure it out until after a week, so it was a strange process for me, but I'm glad that I went through it, and I've gotten over it, and now uh, I got all four of my wisdom teeth extracted. So that's the bright side of it, I guess. yeah, so that's my story. So what's important about high blood pressure? Well, it's important because the higher the blood pressure, the higher the risk of health problems. It comes with age. Um, Risk of high blood pressure increases as you age until the age of 64 for men. Um, this makes high blood pressure very common. As for women, they're more likely to develop blood pressure after the age of 65. Race wise, it tends to run amongst people of African heritage, often developing at an earlier age than it does in white folks. Serious complications such as having a stroke, heart attack, and kidney failure are also more common in the African folks. Family history, just like how I talked about. My mom and my dad has it, so I end up having it too. I'm pretty sure the same goes through with everybody else. Of course, being overweight, physically inactive, using tobacco, too much salt, diet of too much little potassium, drinking way too much, which is something that a lot of folks do nowadays, and I'm guilty of that too. Um, Stress is one, a very big one, and I think that's the one that we all go through the most when it comes to having high blood pressure. And then there's certain chronic conditions. In life, there's positives and there's negatives, and high blood pressure has both of those. The positive thing about high blood pressure is it increases the productivity within the individual when you're looking at it from an exercising perspective because it gives them a drive and that prevents them from having low blood pressure. However, this doesn't make having high blood pressure a good thing because it necessarily isn't. No, no, it is not a good thing at all. Nor is having low blood pressure a good thing. You have to have a balance between the two. It cannot flow one way or the other. It needs to. It's like the yin and the yang. You have to meet like right in the middle. So there has to be a balance between the two. In an article that I found, which has Dr. Hatch in there, he says that blood pressure always changes and it can increase with stress or during exercise. Now, one probably wouldn't know that they're diagnosed with high blood pressure until they've actually been checked a few times. As for negatives, several of those: heart attack or stroke, aneurysm, heart failure, weakened or narrowed blood vessels in kidneys, thickened, narrowed, or torn blood vessels in the eyes, metabolic syndrome, and trouble with memory or understanding. And that leads to dementia. Speaking of dementia, what is it? It is narrowed or blocked arteries that limit blood flow to the brain, leading to a certain type of dementia, vascular dementia. A stroke that interrupts blood flow to the brain also can cause vascular dementia. And while looking for articles to support my point in this presentation here, came across a study, and the study was a long-term study where researchers monitored the blood pressure of thousands of participants 5 times over nearly 3 decades and then performed neurological tests on them, I should say. Among study participants who had high blood pressure throughout midlife, there were 3.28 cases of dementia per 100 people per year. As for those with normal blood pressure during the middle age, there were 1.84 cases per 100 people per year. The study also indicated that either high or low blood pressure in late life increased the risk of dementia if a person had first had hypertension during the middle age. So I've shared my dramatic experience with high blood pressure. Um, I just want to talk about the impact that it's had on my lifestyle and the influence or challenge it's done to my faith. Pretty much after my dramatic experience with high blood pressure, I was able to cut down on sweets such as sugar, pop, and caffeine, and I also stopped having late night meals before bed. I started meditating and praying as a way for me to calm my blood pressure down, and for me to remain positive. So yeah, that's what I got out of it. And the risk factors in um, high blood pressure that can be controlled is an unhealthy diet that's high in sodium. Not exercising can be controlled. Being overweight can be controlled. Drinking too much alcohol can also be controlled. Smoking or using tobacco, having diabetes and stress, all of those can be controlled. Treatments for high blood pressure are very simple. Only thing is they're not simple to do. Um, but all you have to do is change your lifestyle. Reduce the amount of salt in your diet. Lose weight if you're overweight or obese. Stop drinking too much alcohol. Stop smoking. Exercise at least 30 minutes per day, most days of the week. Uh, Take medication if you have to. It may be recommended if your blood pressure is consistently high, usually at or above 140 over 90. And one of the doctors, as I mentioned earlier already, Dr. Hatch, someone that I, uh, in, in an article that I used to support my points here in this presentation, Dr. Hatch says a key component to treating hypertension is making lifestyle changes, such as diet, weight loss, and exercise. Dr. Hatch recommends the DASH diet, which stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. He says you should start with DASH diet and address risk factors, Dr. Hatch said. The DASH diet substitutes magnesium and potassium for saturated fat, sodium, and sugar. Everyone should be doing this. And I should be doing this as well. Well, it looks like that is it. Thank you all so much for sticking with me through 12 minutes. I couldn't stop at 10 because I just keep talking. Like I said, this is personal to me. So I'm glad that I could share my story with you guys, and I'm glad that you guys could uh, watch this presentation. Thank you very much. Have a great one, everybody.